Creating classic load balancers with PowerShell for AWS instances. Here we go. Hi there, today on Tom's Tech Show we are creating load balancers for our instances. What do load balancers provide? If you are running an application that gives you access to multiple instances and you want to be able to load traffic, balance traffic across those, then we create a load balancer. Now, if you have a one application server and that's all you're using is just that application server, then you may not need a load balancer. You can point it directly at a AWS public IP. But if you want to be able to more easily manage SSL connecting to it, you can use the load balancer to add the SSL. Of course, the load balancer will add more cost to your deployment, but it does provide some flexibility in applying the SSL certificate, and security groups can provide the access security, so we don't really need to use a load balancer for security. But if you don't want to use an elastic IP, those are defined non-changing IP addresses for instances, because you only have 5 of those as standard in your VPC, then a load balancer provides that. So you don't need to worry about IP addressing or anything like that. It's all handled through the AWS DNS entries. So if the IP changes, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's get started here. We have our basic information here, like all these example scripts that I've been doing. I put this basic information at the top. If you want to combine all these scripts into one big script that deploys all of this stuff, you can do that. I just put all this information at the top for what I'm working on. Makes it easy to go through. Okay, if you've seen some of my other videos on PowerShell and AWS, we know we need to do and have a few things, which is importing our AWS.NET Core module. Because I'm on Linux, it's the .NET Core version. If I was on Windows, it would just be AWS PowerShell without that. Okay, we have our access key, secret key, and our region that we're going to be deploying this in. We also need our security group. We need the subnet ID that we're going to be putting it in, an instance that we want to attach to our load balancer. We're going to give our load balancer a name, which is going to be our instance plus ELB at the end. So, and then a billing key. Oops, this variable here is actually incorrect. We'll make that. Okay, instance ID. Okay, so what we need to do first, of course, as always, is set our credentials, store them as default. So any command that is run uses these credentials. And we also need to set our default AWS region. Okay. So in order to create the load balancer, the very first thing we need to do is create a listener object. So this object is what the load balancer is going to be listening on, what port and what protocol. So whether this is HTTP, HTTPS, and what the load balancer port is, that's on the outside of the load balancer, and the port that is being forwarded into the instance. So these do not have to be the same. You can listen on 80 and forward it to 8088 if you want. We can change that right there. So we can do things like that so that your instance doesn't have to be listening on the actual port that the load balancer is listening on. So that's all we need to get kind of started with it. So now we just do the command new ELB load balancer, give it our listening object, give the load balancer a name, it needs a subnet, and the security group. You can also add availability zone instead of subnet. That is another way to define it, and you can have more than one availability zone to a load balancer. Okay, now that the load balancer is created, the very next thing, of course, that we need to always do with AWS is tag it, so that we can get our billing and know where our cost is going in AWS. So that's a new object, so Amazon Elastic Load Balancing Model tag. So this is another object. It's not the same as the instance object. It's not the same as the DNS object. So there's several of these different models, and some of them use similar kind of patterns, but some of them are different. So we can do, the key here is billing, and then we're going to give it our billing key, which up here I just had set to infrastructure. So now we're going to attach that tag to our load balancer, and this is add ELB Elastic Load Balancer resource tag, load balancer name, our name that we gave our, that's also wrong. Oh, gotta fix stuff here. Okay. There we go. Whoops. Nope, wrong one. Copy and paste. Okay, that's what we got to be. Load balancer name. So add ELB resource tag, load balancer name, give it our name, our variable that we set our name to, and set it the tag object. Now you can add more, but I typically start with the billing key. Okay, so this here in the top, this part is just setting one port being forwarded into one port. So we need to add more to allow us to get more communications. Maybe there's a service in your application that listens on 80, something listens on 443, some other things might be 8088, or here we have 5000, a few different things. Okay, so here we're going to go through a loop which adds port 5000 to our listening ports in the load balancer. So we create a Amazon Elastic. We don't really need these quotes here. I'm going to take those out. So we don't need that. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Amazon Elastic Load Balancing Model Listener, just like we did up here on the top. Amazon Elastic Load Balancer Model Listener. Okay, so this is listening on HTTP, and these are array sets. So I could have these be like 5000 to 5001. This is HTTP, and I'm going to loop through here and just add them in a loop. This creates an array of values. So when I say for each port in my port list, that's going to be, port is then going to end up being a smaller array of these two items. So we're creating an array of arrays to pass to our loop. So the listening port, we have 0, which is going to be the first 5000, and port index 1, which is going to be the second 5000. So that gives us our load balancer port on the outside, our instance port on the inside, and then I don't need to write the output. We're going to add that to our load balancer, same way we did up in the top, load balancer name and the listening object. So this is adding, instead of new ELB load balancer, this is new ELB load balancer listener. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing down here on the bottom, except we're going to add something different. Okay, so we're going to have 8088 to 8088, 8443 to 8088, 9443 to 9088, 7443 to 7088. Okay, so that's our array, and we're going to cycle through it the same way, but this time we're doing HTTPS. So here we need, in AWS, when you create certificates, it creates a cert ARN. So that resource name is what we need to place here in this listening object SSL certificate ID. So that way it knows what SSL certificate to apply when people are connecting to our HTTPS port. So we're going to loop through here, do the same thing, except our external protocol is going to be HTTPS. Our internal protocol that goes to the instance is going to be HTTP. So here we're translating our SSL traffic into standard traffic right into the instance. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing, new ELB load balancer listener, give it our load balancer name in this object. And we're going to loop through it, and then it will create all of those different pieces. So all of that creates a load balancer with a lot of ports open being forwarded. Then the very last thing we need to do is to register Elb Instance with the load balancer. So we have the load balancer, but we don't have any instances attached to it. So then we need to do a register ELB load balancer with our instance ID to the load balancer. And that will get us to the point where the instance is connected and the load balancer is sending traffic. Okay, now that we have the instance registered with our load balancers, there's one more piece that needs to be done, and that is to set the health check. So in order for a load balancer to become active, the health check needs to be able to see that the services are running on our instance. So it can be something as simple as in your web server, you create an OK page inside like a folder called ping. So I can say set ELB health check, give it the load balancer name, say health check target, and put in http://ping. Now that was this, if you create a page on your web server, web service under port 80, and a folder called ping, and just put something for the default page that just writes out OK. Then that will load, and anytime the load balancer starts and the instance is started and running, then the load balancer will say, okay, I'm getting data. That means I can send traffic. Otherwise, it will not send traffic. You'll get an error 503, and the load balancer will be offline. Okay, so that's how you get load balancers working and set up and running in AWS using PowerShell. All right, so if you like videos like this, talking about AWS here in this instance, but I also do other Windows things, other technology things that I do in my work. I also do videos about photography. I also do videos about things like Marvel and sci-fi and movies and things that kind of interest me. Like Orville, things like that. So if you like any of those things or all of those things, then subscribe to my channel. If this video helped you, then like this video, and that helps out my channel a lot. If you want to put a comment down below saying what you'd like to see different or something else you'd like to see me do a video on that you need help on, go ahead and comment down below. All right. Well, that's all for this episode. So go get coding, and thanks for watching.